Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Larry Olsen from Picavi, and you're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast. And here's my safety tip. So I spend a lot of time in warehouses, and especially ones I'm not familiar with. So I'm a big fan of always keeping your head and your eyes on a swivel, especially at intersections where there's mobile equipment and you're crossing. So always make sure that the equipment stops, you're making eye contact with them to make sure they see you. And then lastly, never ever be walking and talking and texting on your phone when you're in a warehouse.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Larry Olsen. He is the Senior Sales Manager over at Picavi. And you may remember Picavi. We had them on the show previously when we were at Modex in 2020. Right before everything shut down, I actually got a hands-on, or I guess eyes-on as well, demo of Picavi, and they're providing a vision picking system, which is pretty cool, based on the Google Glass platform. And it's really, really interesting stuff, the way that they're doing it, and it's a pairing of the vision side and also the voice side. So Larry's going to come on. He's going to talk to us a little bit about it, give us a little refresher, and obviously an update of what's been happening in the last year or so with Picavi. And he's also going to talk to us about their vision as a service program and how that can benefit your operation. So, Larry, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. Good. How are you doing?
Good. Happy to have you on. And like I mentioned, I got a demo of this Picavi system at Modex in 2020. But if people are new to the show or missed that episode and that blog post, can you give us a little overview of Picavi and what it is that you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So Picavi, I would say we're a bit of a newer company. We started in 2015. Back whenever, if you remember, Google Glass had a consumer version that hit the market in 2014.
Right.
I like to say it failed, and Google would probably admit it failed too. It was taken off the market, and they brought it back in house and said, "Hey, I think there's still something we could do with this, maybe on a commercial level." So. That's really when our company started. We kind of had some insight into that and became a partner with Google back whenever they were developing that more robust, what is now called the Enterprise Edition, for really the commercial industry, taking off the consumer market and put it in more commercial industry. So we became a partner with them, did a lot of co-development with them in 2015. And then 2016, whenever they released that first edition, that was the year we came out as well and got our first customer actually that year in 2016. And have really been growing ever since. So we have now about almost 100 installations globally. So as you mentioned, we started out mainly a picking process, vision picking solution. So warehouses, anything from people that are still doing paper today or RF guns or voice solutions, that's kind of the three that were available in the market up until this solution came out. Okay. And now you have this vision solution that you can use to interact with WMS systems.
Right. Yeah. And it's very cool stuff. I mean, I love it because, it gets you very close to completely hands-free, which I think is such an important thing and such an efficiency improvement for pickers and the people that are fulfilling your orders, because every second counts, I believe, especially, when you're trying to get, thousands of pieces out of your building a day, especially in e-commerce setup. So, as I mentioned, that I had some exposure to this at Modex in 2020 when, the world was a much different place. And we were in person and all that stuff. And so I guess tell us a little bit about, how are these vision picking systems growing? And, you guys said you've been doing this since 2016. So, how has the adoption been and how are they being utilized throughout the supply chain? Is it just picking or are there other kind of processes that they're being utilized for it too? How is that kind of growing?
Yep. Yeah, sure. So you mentioned, right, we're in warehouses and the whole premise is making things faster, easier to understand and more accurate. Right. So you mentioned the hands-free. So, there are some solutions out there that offer hands-free. I would say for the most part, voice solution is a hands-free solution. Yeah. I think really what we've added to that is we kind of blended the best of all worlds. So if you have, an RF gun that you can display certain things on the screen. I mean, people are now displaying pictures of their product, et cetera, on their screen, right? Colors. So you can do that on a screen. You can't really do that with a voice solution. So a voice is, the user's only gathering what's being spoken to them in their ear. So almost at times have to use their imagination or think, right? What does that mean to me? It's telling me a number. I have to translate that number. Sometimes that becomes a challenge for non-native English speakers, I would say, right? If you're hearing, a language and then trying to translate that into something else, it can become a challenge. So for us, we're now using that visual aspect to provide information to the user. So the visual you're getting from the RF gun, except you don't have to pick it up and put it down. It's always available because you kind of look up into the screen, and it's kind of like I use the kind of the similarity of in driving in your car and looking in the rearview mirror of your car. Yeah. Where you can obtain, you're kind of looking up a little bit and to the right, you're obtaining some information from your rearview mirror, and then you're looking back at the road. So similar concept. You can keep your hands on the steering wheel, right? So hands-free type concept. So using that vision as an input, and then we're now our vision as an input to the user, and now using voice, concept as an input back to the system. So, everybody today, I see a lot of people holding their phones, right, and dictating text messages to their phones. Yeah. Because they're kind of getting, especially on a long message, they're getting tired of typing with their thumbs. So thumbs are wearing out. So everybody's kind of trying to speak to their phones. And, for us, we can do that similar concept, display it on the screen so you can still, gauge it for accuracy, and then using that as an input method. So our goal is, kind of blending the best of everything available, or it's been available in the industry. Those concepts have been out there for 20, 30 years. They're very well established. And I think people know how to use them, but they've kind of stagnated on any kind of improvements or where they can go from there. So I'd say, from a vision standpoint, we're in the basement, I would say, of the technology development cycle. So, we're just, 100 customers, that's barely scratched. Think of how many warehouses there are globally, right? Yeah, that's barely scratching the surface of what people could use it for out there. So definitely still, while 5 years in the market, still fairly new, but trying to get the word out and doing trade shows like you said, do Modex and ProMat, several trade shows, just trying to display this new kind of technology, and people are enamored by it when they see it, right? So it's definitely something different, and it's almost hard to explain, over a podcast or even when I do, conference calls with people until I go there and they actually put it on. Yeah. Then it just really sinks in and they grasp the concept.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, and you had a really interesting point in there. I think about non-native English speakers, and I certainly have been in operation where we implemented voice, and we had a lot of Spanish speakers, but from all different types of Spanish, all different types of dialects and things of that nature. And that was a challenge for us as we implemented voice, and then we added the Spanish pack or version to it as well. Yep. But even in that case, in some sense, the I guess more formalized Spanish is not always translating to the same thing depending on where people are from, because they've adopted their own dialects and things of that nature, and certain words mean certain things, different languages. So, that's always a challenge. And I think that, adding that visual component, as you mentioned, especially because in this scenario, they had also a wrist wearable with that as well, which they could double check, but then in a sense, sometimes that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit, because, when they look down the check, then you're still losing that time in a sense, right? So having it right in front of them, I think is an awesome thing, because you really are able to kind of keep going. And I think from a safety aspect as well, it's a huge thing as well. I've certainly, from a safety standpoint, I've seen issues and safety incidents where, they're just using an RF gun, and, they double checked to see what location were they going to next, and in that second they double checked, they ran into the rack. So you definitely
it's not much different than texting or driving, right? Looking at your phone while you're driving a car, it's a very similar concept.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think keeping that constantly in front of them is keeping it kind of top of mind, and it is reducing that time where they need to check, or they need to look at something else, or, it reduces the safety issue as well. So it's very interesting that, you said that very early on in the technology phase. So have you had any customers or companies approach you about utilizing the technology in something else besides picking? I'm curious, what the potential evolution might be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's probably the progression, the initial progression that's happened is, so when we're looking to put this solution in, people, kind of want their biggest bang for the buck. So we go after the picking process, because that's typically where the majority of the labor is. So once we've had success there, then, the next step is they said, well, we already have this solution and we've integrated it, right? Where else can we go in the warehouse? So we've really moved at this point, I would say, across those companies into almost every function of the warehouse. Not every warehouse has every function, but so inventory control, replenishment, receiving processes, put away processes, outbound sort on the dock. So anything today where they're using a voice or an RF unit to interface with either a WMS or an ERP type system, those are all ripe opportunities for our solution. Like I say, we go into picking first, typically. Yeah. We have a few customers who have come and said, hey, I really have a horrible inventory control process, and I don't like using the RF guns, and can you help us with that? And we've started there, but that's not common, I would say. Usually starts with picking and then kind of moves to other areas or other functions in the warehouse.
Interesting. I've done inventory control for like 10 years, so you really kind of grabbed me right there. So how are they utilizing it for inventory control? Are you utilizing it when they're doing cycle counting, or what are they doing now?
Correct. Because inventory control, it depends on where it's at, right? If it's in the racks, you can be on an order picker, right? So they're using it just like they would. They're saying, well, if I have my people that are picking in a process using this technology, why wouldn't I do it for my inventory control guys? So similar concept, and again, it's always, especially when you talk hands-free, am I counting pieces? If I'm going just counting a pallet in a location, or am I pulling pieces out and counting pieces? So that hands-free piece. We also do something where we can do a count back. concept. So say you needed to count 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Most people, you can get a scratch pad out, or there's different ways to get to 1,000, but you kind of got to sort and segregate things, and so we can do a count back with our system, independent of the WMS system, but essentially to show kind of that math on the screen where they're actually inputting the pieces as they count them. Not one at a time, but in groups. Yeah. Essentially, you could count in tens or count in hundreds, right? And say, I counted 100, and then it'll decrement and say, okay, you have 900 more to count. So we can do that math along the way.
Oh, that's very interesting. I like that. It's pretty cool. Because sometimes I think, I know when I go count, like I break it down by the case basically, and how many cases do I have in the layer and things like that. So is the system able to recognize like how many cases should be there? Like if I got, like you said, 1,000 pieces there, and the cases of 100, does the system know like, okay, you should have 10 cases, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we do that too. So we both, you and I both probably worked in plenty of warehouses and seen different technologies, but many warehouses can't deal with cases and eaches in the same location. So if that's the case, they break it to an each. So then you lose that case methodology that you're talking about there. We've done that with customers and said, well, we can help fix that problem on our end with you. Well, we'll tell you if it's, like you said, if it's cases of 10 and there's 100 in location, or there's 96 in location, that means there's 9 cases plus 6 pieces.
Right.
We display it on the screen that way to the user. And we can even use symbology, right? Like put a box and put the 9 in the box, and then put plus, and then put the 6, just the number 6. So then they know I'm looking for 9 boxes and 6 pieces. Wow,
I like that. It's very cool because it makes it like so much easier to count, I think, and visualize as well. Because I know a lot of people, like, especially if you're kind of just throwing them into inventory control a little bit to help you out, like they have a hard time like grasping the count, and they lose track of what they're counting, and it gets difficult if it's not something you're doing every day, or I've done for a long time. So that's really cool. I want to talk too about you have this vision as a service program, right? So I think everybody is getting like a as a service thing. I talk to people as robots as a service, hardware as a service, packaging as a service. I talked to somebody about. So now you got vision as a service. So tell us a little bit about this VAS, or vision as a service program that Picavi is offering.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep. Yeah. And you mentioned several, right, that are in the market there. So we felt it was, we probably needed that type of solution too. And it's been fairly popular with customers as we presented it to them. So you have, you essentially have customers that, especially on IT hardware, in the past, most of them have been purchased, right? So they're going to capitalize and buy RF guns and scanners and printers, et cetera. So that's kind of the niche that we fall into, even though we have a strong software platform offering with it too. But they still kind of saw it as, it's just hardware. And we said, well, it's really not. It's more than that. And it takes some support, behind it from the software side. So we came up with this, vision as a service solution to help kind of bridge that gap of, well, if you don't either have capital to purchase and you want to move on it, or you're looking for a quicker ROI. So when you think of the service model, right, that's usually less capital intensive. So you're getting your payback, quite a bit earlier on that service solution. So we as a company essentially maintain the hardware and the software solution for essentially a monthly fee per unit. So it's that service solution. The other advantage to it is it can be scaled up or down. So you have companies that have seasonality where they need to bring in an influx of pickers for the last 3 months or 4 months of the year. We can ebb and flow with that, where they don't have to have that purchase hardware on hand, that they're only utilizing that asset for 4 months a year. So we can help them out with that aspect as well.
Yeah, I think that's very cool, and I mean, I'm like really happy that the industry is going in that direction, because I think it makes so much more sense from an operations perspective. Especially due to what you just mentioned with the peak seasons and the seasonality. You have to ramp up and get all these extra units, and then, like you said, the rest of the year, like they're just kind of sitting there, right, collecting dust, and it seems like kind of a waste, right? And then they sit there, and then a couple of years, well, now they're like outdated, and now you got to replace them, and it gets very challenging, I think, for the operation and the company as a whole to want to do that. And then obviously, as a Capex, you're looking at, difficulty getting approval, and, IT budget, they want to hold back, and, the old one is still good, and, let's put some duct tape on it or something like that, right? So, and plus you mentioned you guys maintain them as well. So if you're in this program and you do have an issue with a unit, it gets broken, or whatever the case may be, can you do a swap out, or how does that work?
Yeah, so essentially, so that's part of it. Besides negligent damage, right? You run over it with a fork truck. We're probably not going to cover that. Issues that come up along the way, which we don't have many, but if they did, right, then it's a swap program, and especially when you look at it, right, in capital, as you mentioned, right, we know anything. Our laptops sitting on our desk, right? 3 years from now, they start acting up, and we start thinking, maybe it's about time to replace it. So same thing happens in a warehouse, but like you said, they tend to drag it out, and then the productivity starts going down. I was just in a warehouse. The shipping or the picking supervisor had about 10 RF guns on his desk, and we stopped by and we said, "Oh, what are all these?" He goes, "These are all the ones that I have to try to fix."
Yeah.
So he was the repair guy, right? And he's like, "This stuff is so old, right?" He's like, "It's just constantly cycling through my desk here." Yeah. So that tends to happen, and I don't think people don't see the impact of that on the operation until it's almost too late. And you think of a manager walks by and they're like, "Why are all these RF guns on the supervisor's desk?"
Yeah.
Right? So until they see it, right, they don't realize it's really happening. So as this value or vision as a service solution, right, we're able to replace that technology as it comes to end of life, then we're essentially cycling through and replacing that and keeping the technology, the firmware fresh, the software fresh, the technology fresh.
Yeah, definitely. And I've certainly been in that exact scenario that you mentioned. I'm the guy that gets the printers and the guns collecting on the desk, and if anyone is listening and they work in IT, please listen to the people in the operations. When they say something's not working, they need it. So I mean, I think this type of program certainly gives you more flexibility in that sense as well. And so I mean, and I guess for you mentioned like the operation supervisors and things like that, maybe that are just getting some experience at that level and things of that nature. Talk to us a little bit about Opex versus Capex, and what does that mean, and how does it benefit the company when you're trying to propose a new solution or something like that.
Yep. So most of the time we're coming with a new solution. Companies are looking for a return on the investment, right? So capital wise, right, it's a bigger upfront investment because they have to allocate the capital. As you said, there's sometimes capital constraints, challenges with capital. We didn't, especially you get about mid-year and it's either we ran out of capital, or our capital has been constrained, or we didn't plan to do this this type of upgrade this year, so we're gonna have to wait till next year. So that's the whole Capex versus Opex, where we can switch that over to that operating expense. One, it definitely helps from an ROI perspective, shorter ROI because you don't have the bigger upfront, expense. And then, can get you through some of those hurdles of, my internal capital process is very challenging, or like I said, we don't have it this year, but we have really old equipment and we're just putting Band-Aids on it right now. We need to do something. So it just gives them, another avenue, that kind of ties in, the vision as a service solution and the Capex Opex discussion are kind of almost synonymous with each other.
Right. Yeah. And I think I don't know if you would agree, I think the Opex versus Capex, Opex, you're more likely to get a yes from your manager than Capex, right? Or a sooner to get a yes, right?
Yeah, especially when you can show lower upfront investment. I can get a return, and we can, as a company, the company can start seeing a return on that much sooner.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, I appreciate the learning there for younger professionals and things of that nature who are listening. I think it's important to know those things, especially when you're looking at different technologies and solutions that are out there, and you're trying to convince people that may not understand as much as you do. So really interesting stuff. Before we close out here, I wanted to ask you, we talked in the beginning about the importance of, being virtually hands-free almost 100%, and how that can help you really improve and be more efficient. So from a technology standpoint, how close do you think we are to being absolutely hands-free for picking? Meaning the only thing we're doing for picking is just grabbing the box and that's it.
Yeah. So, it's that whole, I have a system and I have to provide information to a user,
right?
And I need that user to do an activity for me because, and I know you do a lot of podcasts. I listen to quite a few of them, but you have a lot of robotics guys that you talk to, right?
Yeah.
Their whole concept is, trying to find out how to best pick various types of pieces or units out of point A and put it into point B,
right,
without breaking it, without dropping it, right? Get the right quantity. So that, that's coming along, but that's challenging in certain warehouses where the product is diverse. So the diversity of the product is going to keep humans in the picking, realm for years, right? For almost decades, I would say. We'll see how fast technology advances, but it's, you need that system telling a human that has essentially ambidextrous hands and thumbs, opposable thumbs, right? The beauty of the human.
Right.
That we can actually pick up various things, lift heavy things, super small, light things, pieces of paper that are stuck together and we know to pull them apart, right? So all those kind of concepts, and it's mostly how do we as quickly and efficiently give an instruction to a human, as you said, and then have them respond to it and pick it. I think with the, as we get more into pictures, we may get, pictures displaying on a unit, especially if I'm picking product that I can actually see the product. It's not just a brown box. I think companies will get more to, I don't need to scan it if, I can use the human to say this picture and this picture look the same, the matching game, right? That we all played as kids. So if I can get to the matching game concept, I can take the scan maybe out and still be comfortable with my accuracy. Okay. And then it is more just a pick and put, right? With limited information, and then a quick confirm, and then you're on to the next activity.
Got it. Very interesting. So is there any, I guess, potential, because I remember from the demo that it was paired with a Bluetooth scanner as well. So is there potential for like the I guess the headset or the glasses themselves to be able to capture like a barcode or image for confirmation?
So it can today, and our technology can do it today. The issue, and until people think about it, and actually I thought the same thing, as I was exploring this technology 4 and 5 years ago. I thought, there's a camera on there, I should be able to scan it. So one, when you stand in front of a rack or a bin location, you're seeing sometimes 100 barcodes, right? If I'm in a bin section of small, so one, it doesn't know what to look at. So you say, okay, well, I put a crosshair on it, which is fine. But then think, the camera is mounted to your head. So you and I wear, glasses. So, if you think of where the arm of your glasses is, that's where the camera would be. So to aim it, you move your head. So it's kind of like, you kind of look like a bobblehead out there if you were trying to scan an exact barcode. So it's not, I say right now, it's not ergonomically fit. Because when you or I go to look at a location and want to see a barcode, we use our eyes independent of our head to move. So that's where the like you said, the wrist mount or ring type scanner on your wrist, you can move your hand, especially think of the low locations, right? The location where the barcode is 3 inches off the floor, or the location, even in a bin section, it could have a barcode 7 feet in the air. I can't really get my head aligned to it. So that challenge is still not solved on being able to scan from a camera standpoint.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I guess when you talk about the aiming perspective, because I think also from a ergonomic standpoint, you're probably going to get a little sore neck there.
Yeah, so we have a few customers that do it larger. I would say larger barcodes, floor picking locations that are spaced more far apart, where they can just look up and they can see one. They only see one barcode, so it's easy for the camera to track to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I was interested in that and seeing, what do you think the evolution there might be. So really interesting insights from you, Larry. And I really appreciate you coming on the show to talk about Picavi. I did really enjoy the demo I had at Modex 2020. So it's definitely good to hear that you guys are still progressing. And even as you mentioned that you guys are still early in the technology progression as well. So interested to see, how things grow over the next couple years as well. So how can people find out more information about Picavi?
So our website's easiest, just picavi.com. So PICAVI.com.
All right. Very cool. Larry, thank you once again for coming on the show.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.